Go.
Okay.
Awesome. I can't hear you yet. Let's see here.
You can? I haven't said
Here we go. I can hear you. I'm going to mute my computer during the show.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't. So it'll just be mostly you on there, but I'm going to mute it so I can't. So it doesn't play back through the microphone right here.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm gonna have my headphone on my phone anyway, so I can't hear on the computer anyways.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Here we go. And then you have the number to call in. Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to the Project Grow radio show. I'm your host, Adrian Boycell, and boy, do I have an exciting show planned for you guys today. I have a special guest that we're going to be chatting with. She's called the Warrior Who Reads Hearts. It's going to be just a really jam-packed show full of a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, and I'm just really excited to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is actually episode 23. So we have one more episode left after this, and then we're going on a 2-week break. And then when we come back, we're going to play some of our other shows during the 2-week break. So you're not going to go missing nothing. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What are your favorite shows? What can I play during that 2-week break? And then we come back. We're going to launch season 2 of the Project Grow radio show. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm just trying to make some improvements and continue to make the show better and better as time goes on. So today we're going to be actually meeting and talking with Isabel Hundt. She's an author of The Power of Faith in, what is it called? I'm all of a sudden forgetting it. The Power of Faith-Driven Success. And she's an amazing speaker and an author, so we're going to be chatting with her today. And really the theme of the show is emotions in business. So with the Warrior Who Reads Hearts. So it's really exciting. I'm really grateful to have her on the show. And really what she does is she helps people successfully navigate the emotional world. So whether it's in your personal life or in your business, she's really an expert in that. And so I've got a lot to share that's been on my heart and part of my journey. You may have heard me last week talking a little bit about communicating versus connecting. And so that's something I've really been focusing on and learning and growing in and praying on, just something that's really important to me. So I'm just really excited to be here with her and be able to have the opportunity to share that. But I want to get into kind of what I wanted to share with you. And that is really the communicating versus connecting. And, you know, we live in a world that is just so much about communication, from social media to emails to text messaging to phones. But I really feel like we live in a world that has less genuine connection than ever before. And so my focus for this opening segment is, how do we really connect and build a deeper and more meaningful relationship with people? And so instead of communicating all the time, how do we connect? And so I feel like there's some general principles, and upon doing praying and reading and discussing with some of my friends and mentors, I really gained a lot of insight on this topic, and I felt like this was something that was really important to share with you guys. So to create a really meaningful connection, I feel what's really important is you actually have to follow through with genuineness and true intent. So what is true and proven, what I know, what I always revert back to, is the Bible and what the word says, and that's the truth for me. So what that tells me and what I've learned from that is there are what's called the laws of connection, and you have to touch other people's heart before you can ask for a hand. I'll say that again. Touch the heart before you can ask for a hand. And so that's really the law of connection, and there's some principles that go along with that, some really keyword buzzwords that I feel are really, really important within that law, and that's humility, being humble and being willing to open yourself up and be vulnerable, responsibility, taking responsibility for the situations at hand, whether it's taking responsibility for how you're going to help them or taking responsibility for something that you may have done wrong to that person.
Well, we're live. Not me. Okay. I have no idea. He's gone. Live somewhere. Hi, this is Isabel Hunt. This is Isabel Hunt. I'm supposed to call in as a guest today? No, Isabel. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to call in on that number for Adrian. Oh, yeah, I do have a headset. I have the headset on, but that usually works pretty well. Can you hear me now?
Connecting with a person. So that's something that I'm really trying to
Okay.
focus on, is not looking for anything in that can help me or that I can learn from, but just purely giving myself to that person and as
Okay,
with my money or any of those things. So, and then number two is growing beyond themselves, to grow beyond and to grow and remain humble and teachable. That's really a big thing for me, is just to remain really, really teachable. I really want to be open and teachable. And I really count on the people that are around me, my friends, my mentors, to really learn from their wisdom and from their mistakes and to apply that to my life. So you have to grow beyond yourself as well. And then number three is giving beyond. So people that give their time, volunteer, donate, it's a proven fact that their lives increase in eagerness and their for living, and increase their life expectancy. They've done lots of studies on it. When you start to give to other people, you volunteer, you donate, and you do those types of things, pouring back into other people instead of trying to pour into yourself all the time, that's when it heightens your eagerness for living and it increases your life expectancy. So those are really, really big deals. Something that I wanted to share with you is pretty interesting. About a week ago, I had a situation happen where I've been hanging out with a buddy of mine pretty regularly and trying to just continue to grow that relationship and that friendship. We're pretty new friends, but I really have a lot of respect for him. And every time I've seemed to hang out with him, and when it's one-on-one, it's been awesome. But sometimes when it's just a group of people, I find myself being the butt of his jokes. And so after it happening for the last few months, I'm like, man, why is it that he always does that? And I'm probably a little more sensitive to it, to others, just because of my upbringing and my childhood and things like that. But it's something that I notice. And so instead of putting my walls up like I would naturally do, I told my fiance about it, and she's like, why don't you just, talk to him about it and tell him how you're feeling and tell him that, it seems like every time you're in a social setting, like maybe he's threatened, who knows why it's happening. And so by doing that, I gave him a call. I followed her advice and I gave him a call and said, hey, look, man, I don't know what it is, but it seems like every time I hang out with you in a group setting, I just end up becoming the butt of your jokes. What's that about? And the funny thing is, where I thought this call was for me to try to address something that he was doing to me, the reality was it was something that opened up my mind to really the reality of that I needed to lighten up. I needed to have more fun, and I needed to put those walls down, because when I'm one-on-one with a family member, or I'm one-on-one with my fiance or my kids, I'm a goofball. I like to be fun. I like to have fun. I like to do fun things. But as soon as I get into that business setting or to that social setting, I put my walls up and I become reserved. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. I become more polished, and I'm Mr. Businessman, and I'm not as goofy as I normally am. And I realized when I had people making jokes or doing tough stuff like that, I would immediately put my walls up and be like kind of offended. So unfortunately, we got to go to break. We're going to give some love to our sponsors, but when we get back, I'm going to close this out, and then we're going to talk with Isabel. So thank you guys for tuning in. See you when we get back. My computer literally just died right in the middle. Well, not died, but just turned off on me right in the middle of you talking. So weird. So weird. I'm going to go grab my other phone here. I left it. Can you hear me? And he has called you to do great things. And number 3, go for a walk. Some quiet time outdoors can give you some space you need to clear your mind and get the blood flowing. Take notice of the small things like the birds chirping or the flowers blooming. Like the saying goes, stop and smell the roses can help you find some great satisfaction in your life. I'm Adrian Boycell. This has been your Business Minute. And as always, keep looking up.
Handling payroll, workers' comp, and HR yourself is a big risk. If done incorrectly, it can cost you thousands of dollars and agonizing audits. You need a reliable company that looks out for you in all of these areas, and there's no better company than Premier Personnel. Family-owned and operated, Jennifer and Scott will provide the highest quality service at a cost you can afford. Call Premier Personnel at 888-915-0806 or visit them online at ppfsp.com.
Hey, are you building real wealth with Bitcoin? The more you know about the technology, the greater chance you have at making real money from Bitcoin. The local experts at Bitcoin City teach you the do's and don'ts of cryptocurrency.
Okay, coming back in 20. And the rest is on hold.
In just 2 sessions, you will get the knowledge you need. And as Ben Franklin said, investment in knowledge is the best interest. Enroll in the first ever crypto education class at btcoincity.com. That's btcoincity.com.
2155.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You are listening to the Project Grow Radio Show. I'm your host, Adrian Boycell. I'm actually going to be doing an amazing interview today with Isabel Hundt, who is the warrior that reads hearts. So it's an exciting show. We're talking about emotions in business. I opened up the show a little bit about connecting versus communicating, and I just want to close that part of it out because I think it's really, really important. And I'm sure some of what I'm saying will resonate with Isabel as well before I introduce her here in just a moment. So connecting is also, I think, really, really critical to leadership. It's something that I've been really trying to grow in, and I feel like it's part of what's held me back is I've done really good at communicating with my team, but I've struggled at connecting with my team at times in different areas. So really, if you remain open to what their needs are first and your intentions are pure, which mine always have been, but sometimes I'm just so focused on what I have going on and I have so many thoughts going through my brain, I have a hard time really giving somebody my attention. And just part of the stuff from my childhood of putting those walls up when people talk about certain things, like, you know, somebody starts talking about their divorce, it reminds me of my divorce, and I get uncomfortable, and there goes my walls, and I immediately want to get off the phone. So that's something I've been guilty of in the past, and just something I don't want to do anymore. So I was telling a story before I went to break here, and I was telling you how my friend was making me the butt of his jokes, and the reality of the phone call was the lesson in that was for me is I was able to be vulnerable with him, say, hey, look, man, I'm really struggling with being the butt of your jokes. And then after realizing it and having the conversation with him, I was like, man, I'm comfortable around, you know, somebody making jokes on me when it's my cousin or when it's my brother or when it's my friend that I've, you know, known my whole life. But why is it that I'm not comfortable around somebody I'm trying to build a friendship with making me the butt of their jokes? Is it because I can't hang, or I'm emotionally sensitive? So there was a bunch of things that I started really looking at, and really the bulk of it was me, is I was just needed to loosen up. I needed to trust people more, and I needed to not be guarded and think that everybody was trying to attack me or trying to make me feel smaller. And that's not what they were doing. That's not what he was doing. So there was a really big lesson in that for me, to really be vulnerable, open up to him, as well as not just take things so seriously, lighten up, have a little bit more fun, and let those walls come down, because that's really something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, is have deeper, more meaningful relationships. And I feel like that's really the key, is to have deeper and more meaningful relationships. You need to be vulnerable. You need to have their intentions at heart, and what they need and what you can help them with first, and just continue to be open and honest with them, and not really hold back and have your walls up. So that's really what I'm pushing to. So I'm really excited. I don't have a whole lot of time on this show to do the interview with Isabel. I never feel like I have enough time, so I want to jump right over to that right now and make the introduction, because I'm just really excited to do this interview with her. So Isabel, do I have you on there with me?
I believe so.
Yes, you're here. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here.
Technology was awesome today.
Oh man, it has been quite the ordeal. We're trying to stream live on Facebook and YouTube and do all the other things, all the technical errors, and run the show and do the content and get her on the radio show here. So it was a challenge, but I think we got it.
I hope so, because when I called in, the person who answered, like, I can't hear you. I was like, oh no, please not.
Well, we're good. I can hear you over my headphones now, so we're good. So
okay,
I've been talking, about connecting versus communicating, and I feel like it's really important in business, and that's a lot of what you've talked about is the emotional side of things. So I guess I can kind of open it up to you a little bit and just see your perspective on maybe some of what I've shared.
You were talking about communication and connecting with each other, and that has become a huge part for me, especially being on an international platform. As you had mentioned, I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the US, and so there are intercultural things that are not matching up, where sometimes I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, Americans, I can't handle it. And then there are other things I'm like, okay, why do Germans do that again? So there's a bit of an identity crisis going on, and through my whole work, and again, there's a long story to it, but through my whole work, I realized that we have one thing in common, and that's our native language, and that's emotions. We all communicate through emotions, and that has become my my audacious goal, to literally have to influence the world through the language of emotion, so we can communicate better. Because the way we have emotions, or our emotional system set up in our society, is that it doesn't serve us. It's like good or bad, good or evil. And that's not what it is. I always explain it to people this way. There's our soul and there's our conscious mind, right? And in between, there is like a tunnel, a channel that we have to channel the messages that we get from our soul to our conscious mind. And I even say it from a spiritual perspective, that God uses our emotions to communicate, because in Ecclesiastes, it's talking about that as well, that there's a time for everything. So there must be a time for every emotion too, and not anything bad or good about it. And so my goal is to help people understand more of their emotional world, so they understand more of other people's emotional world, and not take it personally whenever someone is reacting, but rather you're just reflecting. Like you mentioned with your friend, you started to reflect on yourself. Well, why does it bother me? Is it something about him? Is it something about me? You are very much aware, right? When you do that, and then you can talk about it. And speaking successfully the language of emotions connects us to the heart. And that makes scientifically sense as well, because our heart is, okay, so let's take it a little back. We know that everything is energy, right? Correct. Everything, like if you really get close into your hand, for example, everything is atoms and molecules moving on different speed and frequencies, and therefore different vibrations. So the same is with your emotions. Everything we receive has been predispositioned within us from a very early age. We already can distinguish different emotions at the age of 6 months, probably even before that, in the room, not outside, in the room. So everything that the mother experiences during pregnancy, as well as the father, the child is already experiencing emotionally while the brain is still developing. So your native language was already there on a vibrational level that we understand that language before your brain was even developed in the way that you could consciously even understand what was going on. And we call that also trapped emotions. So for example, if a mother has a really hard time during pregnancy and withdraws the love from the child, it has been shown in research that most of those children end up with depression and bipolar disorder or any other kind of mental disorder that are related to this emotional trauma. And so when we connect with people, so we have those, like our brain already imprints all of those events, and they are connected to specific frequency, aka your emotions. Every event is imprinted with a specific emotional frequency. And we even know that everything is coded in colors in your brain. Did you know that? Because
that fascinated me when we first talked. You said that, and I see colors, and I was like, I want to know more about that. That's really intriguing.
So when we receive, if anything is going on around us, we receive that vibration of whatever is being sent out by someone else, for example. And so your heart is already taking that vibration in and sending it to your subconscious mind, where in your subconscious mind, it's being compared to already existing events and therefore existing emotional connections to those specific events. And then it sends that signal to your conscious mind, where you 5 to 10 seconds before your heart already knows what's going on an emotional level, your conscious mind is now understanding what the situation actually is. So
that makes sense.
Our subconscious mind stores about 1 million thoughts and events a day. And you can count on it that you only get like this little tiny much sent to your conscious mind. Otherwise, you would be constantly overwhelmed and just done. Like you wouldn't be able to comprehend anything that's happening around you.
Correct.
So that's why it is so important to understand our emotional world and how we respond to it and what the actual message is, the real message, and not what we have created it to be. So that we can connect on a heart level with people. Got it.
No, that's connecting on the heart level with people. And like I said, in scripture, that's exactly what it says is the law of connection is touch the heart before asking for the hand. So I think that ties in really beautiful together.
See, and I was just able to explain that scientifically, how that really does work.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So, I mean, I had a couple questions for you, but I kind of want to let the audience know a little bit who you are and a little bit about what you do and kind of share some of that with us.
Yes. Well, I think the most important, you've mentioned it, I think 2 or 3 times already, that I'm known as the warrior who reads hearts, and people are like, how, what, huh, what? And so I want to explain that a little bit more. So growing up, I always saw everything in color. I saw different numbers in color. I saw places, people. I just always thought it was normal. Everyone does that, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple like out of body experiences through some accidents that I had. And I'm not going to get too much into it because it would take too long. If anyone wants to know more about me, there in my book, there's like the story of my journey described a little bit more in detail. But and then I had a vivid dream at the age of 12 that I'm supposed to move to the US and start some kind of movement. I saw myself on a stage speaking in front of a couple thousand people. I'm like, yeah, I'm an introvert. I'm not speaking in front of that many people, especially not in English. Forget that. But that dream literally hung with me for all of my life after that. And I directed my life towards where I'm at today. But every time I had this color, and I just ignored it at some point. I was like, whatever. I guess it's just something normal. But just over the last, let's say, probably 5 to 10 years, I've been doing this work for almost 10 years now. And so I realized that actually what I see is a gift as an empath. And an empath is someone whose mirror neurons are developed much stronger and much more detailed than with other people. So we don't just experience empathy, we don't just relate to people, we literally become them. And that's a problem when you find yourself in that stage, because you don't know what is your stuff and what is other people's stuff. But again, at some point I was like, oh yeah, I see colors around people. Well, what does what does each color mean? So I started to study colors and the meaning of colors. I'm like, interesting. So I started to implement that with my clients that I work with. It's like, okay, let me practice that on you. Let's see what that could mean. And then, no, that's totally like accurate. It makes perfect sense what you just said about me. It's like, so every color has a specific meaning. But how do I see that? And then I understood that with the vibration and how I receive information and how my brain transfers everything into color. And then it was just actually like a half a year ago, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed and read something. I don't feel like doing any work. I just felt that need to just read something. And suddenly on my Kindle was a book coming up. It's called The Girl Who Reads Hearts by Sherry. I forgot her last name, but she's friends with me on Facebook if anyone wants to check it out. The Girl Who Reads Hearts. It's more like a fiction, but with truth. I love it. And so I read it and I was like, that's me. Oh my gosh, she's talking about me.
That's awesome.
Because that girl was able to also read people's hearts. She was able to see colors and identify what she was seeing through color. And that's how it just came up. And then suddenly he's like, yep, I mean, I coined the term empath warrior. So, and then people's like, well, you're against the warrior who reads hearts. I'm like,
there we go.
That's what it is.
Well, let's talk more about that when we get to break. We got to go to break quick. When we get back, we're going to give some love to our sponsors and we'll continue the conversation.
Awesome.
Oh, this technical stuff. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here. It's so hard. Let's see. All right, let's see here what's going on. Something's up with the live stream. Window capture. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go.
Oh.
'Sorry, folks. Experiencing some technical difficulties. Screen.
No.
Oh, there we go. So there she is. So I can get this. Ten seconds. Okay, perfect. Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to the Project Grow radio show. I have an amazing guest that we've been chatting with about emotions in business, and she's the warrior who reads hearts, Isabel Hundt. So we're going to get back to our interview. We had to cut her off there at the end while she was telling me about this awesome book. So I just wanted to hear that book again and just recap that. So can we chat about that for just a few more minutes?
Yes. And you mean the book, The Girl Who Reads Hearts?
Yes, The Girl Who Reads Hearts. So
yes.
that was a pretty profound book, it sounds like, for you.
It was. And I actually reached out to Sherry as well, and they're amazing people. And I was like, that is me. And so because I coined that term, empath warrior, for my clients, People were like, that's exactly you. Like what you receive is actually my heart's message, not just a color that you see around me for whatever reason. It's what my heart is communicating, what I can't really see at this point. And every time I tune in with people, I always just ask God to just guide me and to see it. Sometimes I have visions with it too, and sometimes I don't. And when people are really shut down, I only see a wall.
Wow.
So it's quite interesting and profound work, but it has to do with emotions too, because every emotion has a specific frequency in alignment with a specific color as well.
Correct. Yeah. So what color specifically could you give us some reference points, like, the different emotions, what colors do they have?
Well, anger is usually related to red. It's more of a lower vibrating frequency, I guess.
Okay.
But it's actually, for people, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you see it with how what an impact color has on your life. If you have some yellow around you, you feel happier usually when you don't see the sun for a while. It's depressing. Green is about hope and growth, and so that usually is in alignment with more of a higher vibrating emotions like trust, joy. They're higher vibrating. So that's pretty much just what people need to know about it. Otherwise, it becomes too complicated.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It also resonates with your body. So specific organs respond to your emotions. That's why people who have a lot of liver problems, for example, have also anger issues for the most part.
Wow.
There's some trapped emotions with anger, beliefs and stories, something that they have to work through. Kidneys are usually responsible for worry about future and family, and flexibility because it's close to your hips. So it does make sense. And your heart, if you have a lot of heart problems, that's usually in terms of trust. If you see it in a spiritual way or not, doesn't matter. It's trust in yourself, but also trust in the flow of life. Therefore, trust in a higher power, in God, whatever people want to call it. I call it God. So the heart often is related to that kind of problems.
So green, it sounds like I picked a great color for Project Grow. I know I'm a branding guy, so I know colors, and I know, for the most part, how they connect to emotions, but I think there's a lot of people listening that don't know a whole lot about that. So I thought that would be interesting information to share with them, just how colors are connected to emotions and how important that really is.
Yeah.
And when you're building a brand for somebody, you want to make sure that those colors come into play. People are like, "Oh, I'll just do red, white, and blue because it's patriotic." I'm like, "Yeah, but what does your company mean? What does it say? What does it do?" So I think that's really important. So I had another question for you. I think, let me see here. The second one was, how has your book impacted your business and career? I mean, your book is called The Power of Faith-Driven Success, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I wrote that book about 2 years ago. Within 2 months, it was literally a divine download. That's how I was just describing it. It just came and flew. Like I'm reading it myself. I'm like, did I write that? That doesn't sound like me. Really?
Well, they say when you write a book, you want it to be a book that you're writing for yourself. So that's good.
Yeah, that's true. And for one, it's a little bit about my story, but it also it's kind of a coaching story too behind that, where I talk about or help especially younger people understand how your heart and your brain are connected and what that means for you in terms of how you can successfully live your life without always looking for the competition. I talk less about the emotion side of it because I added that to my business a little later on, but the book is the foundation to everything I'm teaching pretty much now. A lot of people say like, I've been going through this like 3 times and I make notes and everything makes sense and I understand more about who I am and why we do certain things the way we do them. And it's written in an understandable way because English is not my first language. So I kept it simple without all the science words behind it, so people do understand what I'm talking about. And so that's what the book is about, the faith part. And when I talk about faith, I'm not gonna slap you with religious statements in the book. It's more about the deeper knowing, something that just comes from the core of your heart and to connecting to your intuition.
That's super powerful. That's something that I'm drawn to, and like I've talked about it a few times on this show. Of you don't have to believe to belong. Everybody's in different phases of their walk in faith, whether it's Christianity or Catholic or whatever that is, and they're all in different phases of that. Whether they don't believe yet, they're soon to believe, or they just started believing, and like me, they may be a Jesus freak. So it just really depends on the person. And like I said, we're all in different phases of our walk, and I welcome and I'm very grateful for all of those people. And I mean, my goal as a Christian, someone that does love Jesus, is to try and reach out to those people and connect with them and disciple. That's really the premise of why I created the show, was growing your life, your business, and your faith. And it's really the premise of everything, is the discipleship, and really helping people go through that journey and through that process.
Yeah.
So let me see. So what else? I had another question for you. I'm definitely going to pick up your book. Where can I buy that?
On Amazon.
You have it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. The Power of Faith-Driven Success.
Power of Faith-Driven Success. So check that out, you guys. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing read. I can't wait to get it. And then we'll have to do another interview to talk a little bit about it after I get the chance to read it.
I would love that.
share some more of the gold nuggets. But so what, other than, I mean, the book you mentioned about the warrior, the girl, what's it called? The girl that reads emotions?
The girl who reads hearts.
Yeah, who reads hearts, sorry.
Yeah.
So that book specifically, is that the one that you would recommend for people that are maybe going through some emotional struggles or the emotional roller coaster?
Oh, probably not, because it's more like a fiction book, but it explains more of like the empathic gift of it. It's actually difficult to really recommend books about emotions. I know Susan David is really great. I'm sure you probably seen her TED Talk YouTube on Facebook somewhere. It was 34 million. People like to watch those things, but they don't really like to do the actual work most of the time. So, but she's written Emotions Agility. I haven't read it myself yet, but when I did the research, I read a lot of research papers on emotions and spiritual books on emotions. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down, because I haven't found one book that actually could carry you through. But I did create a course that's called The Empowered Warrior, a simple guide to successfully navigating your emotional world.
Wow.
Which is actually still, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that, but right now it's still on sale.
Totally.
Until Sunday, it's still up for $57. So after that, it goes up to
cheap.
$111.
Cheap.
It's
really $57. That's a great deal. So how do they find that?
It's well, you can either go through my website, isabelhunt.com, or you can just go directly to the page theempoweredwarrior.com.
Theempoweredwarrior.com. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to look that up too. I might just take that just to grow and continue to push myself as well. So I know Brene Brown has a lot of books on emotion. She's really amazing. I've watched some of her TED Talks, and then a few years ago I read The Power of Now, and then The 5 Agreements. So there's a few good ones out there that I think people could pick up. So thank you for those insider tips. I just figured, being such an expert on the field, you may know some stuff. So that's really great.
Well, one thing that I've learned. One thing that I've learned, don't read too much, because then you have information overload and you still have not gone anywhere. It is about practicing to trust yourself, and again, to really understand the message of each emotion. Fear, for example, is more about what actions did you not take, or what actions did you take that are not in alignment with yourself. Emotions are always a reflection of who we are, our values, and what we're called to do. It's always the alignment with our purpose. And that makes it so profound, why we shouldn't ignore any or avoid any specific emotions. I think we have created a society where where happiness is almost a required state to be accepted, and that is not serving us well.
Wow, no, that's huge. Yeah, happiness isn't a required. That's interesting. I like that. I like that perspective. That's a gold nugget in itself right there.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let me see here. I know I had another one that I really wanted to get to because we're going to have to go to break here in a minute again. But connecting. Oh, so what's the main emotion that you see that negatively impacts people's businesses? Because it is a business show, but I really feel like there's some things that could be holding people back.
Yeah. Well, I talk at entrepreneur conferences and events as well about the roller coaster as an entrepreneur, the emotional roller coaster. And I think what comes up the most is grief, fear, and anger. Anger is about setting boundaries. And so with an entrepreneur, you consistently grow. And every time you grow, you have to reset your boundaries, the boundaries within what you're able to want to deal with, but also with boundaries from the outside. It's just like a child who always grows, right? Do we have to get into break?
No, we got about 30 seconds left. So.
And fear, every time we hear it about like how to overcome fear, you don't have to overcome anything because there's nothing to be fixed. You just need to listen to what fear has to tell you. But mainly it's telling you, hey, you're ready. Get outside of your comfort zone. Take that next step. Just trust me. Fear is about trust. And that's why it talks about in the Bible not to fear, like 365 times or however.
Yeah.
Because it's about trust.
But it's a real emotion.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
And grief is about grieving and mourning what we've lost. If there are projects that we need to let go of, things that didn't work out that we have to let go. And most of the time we don't do that. We just push through and then we get stuck.
Yep, I agree. Well, we're going to one last break. And when we get back, we'll wrap up our interview. Thanks, Isabel. That's awesome. So good. So good. I'm going to turn my audio on so I can hear you. That was awesome. This live stream totally threw me off. Trying to get the live stream working. Didn't want people to miss this on Facebook. How's it going, Frank? Thank you. I was a little overwhelmed here with our Facebook Live. I'm trying to stream two at the same time. Just a little challenging technically. 1 minute. All right. You're awesome. How's Rock House Radio going? Where's my... Celebration. Here we go. 10. Sweet. Oh, 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 yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Adrian Boycell, and you're listening to the Project Grow radio show. I'm your host, and we've been chatting this episode with Isabel Hundt, and we've had an amazing conversation about emotions and business, and we're going to wrap up this convo here in just a minute, but I just wanted to take a minute and thank you guys for tuning in. Remind you that you can listen to the whole episode at projectgrowradio.com. We have some links up there where you can listen on iTunes or Spotify or whatever app works best for you. So just want to get back into the interview real quick and wrap up our call. So, Isabel?
Yes, I'm still here.
Awesome. So I think we went through the questions. I just wanted to at least give you a few more moments here to share anything that you had on your mind or on your heart that you felt the listeners might find valuable.
Well, there's so much to say. I probably can talk about that for hours.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I think I'm totally on a mission, especially like I have been talking to a lot of younger people, and when I say younger people, it's usually under 35, because we are as a society emotionally underdeveloped. We see an increase in depression, in anxiety, in suicidal attempts, or even suicide. Now there's even lately come a research out that we see an increase in strokes between 20 and 35-year-olds. And that tells us a lot, especially when you take a look at what I said, how emotions affect our heart, right? Yeah. And that makes sense. And I think what we deal with in today's society is overstimulation of the nervous system. And so there's so much going on that our nervous system is not even sure how to process anything anymore. And with overstimulation comes you usually either live it out, you like anger outbreaks, or you withdraw. That's usually when the depression happens. And I think with what I teach, that is really where I want to break through with people, help them. Hey, how can we distinguish? How can we actually keep our nervous system somewhat safe energetically, which means biologically, physically, as well as spiritually, and then learn how to navigate our emotional world so we can connect. I always say, instead of reacting, what we do pretty much now, if someone is angry, I had a speaking engagement last week, and I was saying to them, we often experience people, or we label them. So when we see someone angry, we say they are angry. They are not angry. They feel angry. There's a difference. Their emotions doesn't define who they are. And I'm doing that too. Like, oh yeah, you're angry or you're sad. No, you feel sad. So I'm very consciously aware of it when I talk to my 4-year-old about it. It's like, you feel angry. It doesn't define you. So often we define what we see on the outside with that person and already label them. So I think for us, it is just to take a step back and to just reflect when we create connections. What is going on? Is that my stuff? Is it something that's being triggered inside of me? And reflect before we react. And that may mean that you need about 5 seconds to not respond right away, even if you really want to.
Seriously.
But just taking that time to reflect. And the more you practice that, the better you get at reflecting and understanding what is really going on in that situation so you can appropriately respond. Again, not necessarily react, but respond. Exactly. And we're talking about daily conversations, right? We're not talking about danger situations or anything.
No, not at all. Yeah, so I mean, in arguments or difficult conversations, heated debates and things like that, I feel like a lot of people, and something I actually talked to my pastor about yesterday, of people try to self-preserve. And that's really an opportunity. If you reflect versus react, you're going to be able to take a step back and look at what you've done in the situation and how you can improve. And not just look at what they did wrong or how they did something, and really it gives you the opportunity to step back and let the emotions, go down and then focus on your side of things. And I think that was a really important kind of aha moment for me yesterday in the reflecting aspect of things, of trying to not focus on the self-preservation aspect of things.
It's both. Sometimes we project what's going on inside of us on other people. Like, it's you, not me. You're right.
Yeah.
And then the self-preservation. So there are those two sides that we often struggle with. I think it's about letting go of the should versus the shouldn't, the appropriate versus the inappropriate. We always, like my son, he's 4, and he wasn't able to get to the next level in school because apparently of his emotional maturity. Well, he didn't fit in with the 4-year-olds because he is ahead, because I teach it. So I teach him. So he just tells you, like, I need break. I need to leave the room. I can't handle it. It's too loud. Or he just withdraws into a corner of the room and just holds his ear so he can get some silence. Or he just tells you what he needs. Because one thing that I have realized, and in business it's the same, people always focus on what is wrong with the people that you need to work with. I know we talk about the pain trigger points and all that, but it also creates that stigma in our society that hurts us so bad. It is more the question that we need to ask, what do you need when you feel a certain way, instead of what is wrong when you feel a certain way. And I do that with my son. I don't ask him what is wrong whenever he shows up with some emotional breakdown. I just ask him, what do you need? So at a very young age, he's already aware of it, and he will take that into adult life. And it's even for me, when I feel angry, what do I need in business? Why am I angry at this right now? What do I need? Maybe it's a break. Maybe it's letting go of a project. Maybe it is letting go of a client. Maybe it is saying yes to a new opportunity.
There we go. Wow, that's amazing information. It's really good. I'm so glad we got to do this. I know that there's so much more we could talk about, and I hope that we get the opportunity to do that, because this has been a fun conversation, and hopefully next time I'll have all of our live streaming stuff, so it'll be smooth for everybody to be able to watch online too. But I'm going to put this recording up on the website on Project Grow Radio, pretty quickly here as soon as the show's over. But thank you so much, Isabel, for being on the show today and taking the time, especially last minute, and being a part of this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to close out the show. We only got like a minute or two left, but I just really wanted to encourage everybody that's listening today, if you guys could jump on iTunes or Spotify or one or the other or both, maybe you listen to both and you're checking out podcasts there. If you could go check out the Project Grow Radio show there and subscribe. We need to get those subscriptions. Those are really important to the show. And if iTunes sees people subscribing, not just listening, they reward us and it helps us get more exposure. So that would be really, really helpful for us. So I would just really appreciate that. And like I said, I want to hear from you guys. I know there's people in Phoenix and Australia and people all over the world listening to this show. And that is really, really cool to me. We're here in Sacramento, California, in sunny Sacramento. It's actually a cloudy day today. But I just would really love to have your guys' interactions and feedback and following the show on Facebook or Instagram, wherever you can get integrated. I love to have a conversation with you, talk a little bit more about this topic of emotions. And I just really want to be a resource, whether Isabel's going to be a resource with what she has on her Empowered Warrior, theempoweredwarrior.com. Whatever that looks like, just reach out to us. Don't be afraid. We want to talk with you. We want to have a dialogue. We're not too big and too popular to talk with you. I'm not that busy. So I'd love to have a conversation with you, get to know you, and just maybe even hear your story. So I just really thank you guys for tuning in to the show. I hope you found it really, really valuable. And like I said, make sure you check us out on all the streaming apps as well. So we're going to close out the show today. I did actually want to say a quote before I close the show out. And the quote is, "You don't just express your emotions, you express a story." And that's actually by Isabel. So I hope you guys have a great day. It's been an awesome show. I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And as always, keep looking up. I had to end that with your quote.
What? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Awesome.
I couldn't hear you because I had my headphone on my on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good. So okay. I had to end the show with your quote. I didn't even do my normal outro. Like this is Adrian Boycell. I didn't even do that. I just completely skipped past that. But I wanted to get your quote in there. That was something I read earlier that I thought was really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
That was fun. And next time it'll be a little bit smoother. That was actually one of my rougher experiences on a live feed. I was trying to figure it out while I was trying to talk and listen and be present in the conversation. I'm like, oh, this is too much.
Yeah, we're all in the growing phase. We're going to figure this one out. I have I didn't even know. When do I call in? What am I supposed to do again?
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
Was right interesting.
On. Well, very cool. I'm going to actually end our Facebook Live because it looks like we're still streaming on Facebook here.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it looks like it. There's not anybody watching at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and then we can just continue our Google Hangout. Later, guys.
Got another live call.
Oh, do you? Okay, cool. Sweet. Well, they have another live show coming in here, so
Okay.
I'd love to catch up with you later if we can network somehow and work together. I think that would be really, really cool.
Yes, definitely. Send me a message. It actually works out great because I think my son is probably waking up in a little bit too. So perfect.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for asking me, and that worked out that way. It worked great.
Good. Right.
And we'll connect again later.
Definitely. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Bye.